The streets of Britain are littered with monuments to colonizers and slave owners. They sit on top of our universities, our schools, and our hospitals. But today, there is one less. The statue of Edward Colston, one of the most notorious slavers in history, was pulled down, dragged across the streets of Bristol, and dumped into the same harbour where his slave ships used to dock. We walk past these statues every day, yet few of us even notice them, let alone understand the implication of the people and the systems that they memorialize. And it's only when the descendants of the enslaved and colonized contest the legitimacy of these statues that their significance even becomes visible. Our economic system relies on the extraction of wealth and the exploitation of people in the global south. Yet, we hardly talk about this. The system, which is powered by inequality, just brands itself as a meritocracy in which the violence against racialized people is merely incidental or even deserved. And we're told that removing statues is erasing history, that colonizers and slave owners were just a product of their time, and we can't judge them by today's moral standards. And yet, the very existence of these statues erases the histories of the enslaved and colonized. When we look at the statue of British colonizer Cecil Rhodes and its inscription calling him a munificent benefactor, this shows us nothing of the brutalization and subjugation of Black people that made him his fortune. When we declare that no one at the time knew better, we are ignoring the struggles of the oppressed who always knew that what was being done to them was wrong. Both arguments rely on the notion that Black people are not and never have been people, let alone people who matter. The function of these statues and memorials is propaganda. It ensures that only a particular version of history is quite literally set in stone for future generations. History is not confined to the past. Modern Britain was literally built on slavery and colonialism. The Industrial Revolution itself was paid for by money given to slave owners as compensation for the loss of their slaves. Many of the injustices of today, from climate breakdown to massive wealth inequality to extreme labor exploitation, are rooted in these histories. The displacement and dispossession of people of color around the world continues, and our global economy is actively driven by coloniality. Our relationship to historical figures like Colston is important because these are the figures that wrote the blueprint for the world that we live in today. But the truth of the role played by slavery and colonialism in making modern Britain is concealed so that the economic priorities of white supremacy can continue. The hostile environment policy, for example, relies on the idea that immigrants should not have access to Britain's resources. So the erasure of imperialism from the story of Britain ensures that the spoils of empire remain exclusively reserved for white Brits. Statues like that of Edward Colston do not teach us about Britain's past. They stand in the way. They represent an ideology based on the erasure of Black histories and the devaluing of Black lives. Only by pulling down these statues can we make the space necessary for a meaningful and transformative re-education on how Britain came to be.